we're rolling. Okay, this is our mentor video for November 1st, and we are going to be talking about the trauma-informed module. And my artifact was where I summarized everything I learned in the module. And we have been talking about it the past week. So we can talk about that, and then the classroom strategies, and then self-care practices to help us.
Yeah, we need that.
So some of the things that I picked out from the module was about the ACEs and how it affects kids and into your adult life. But one of the things we were just talking about this before we started the video, but one of the things is those risks are just risks. Like there are ways that you can limit or help not get to that point. So like having a stable, caring adult in your life can definitely help you build resilience. That was one of the big things that I took away. It talked about after school programs, teaching staff about all the because you hadn't even heard, and you are not, you didn't go to school 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Which I would expect someone 30 years ago to not know about ACEs, but I feel like that needs to, I don't know, our school could probably benefit for some training.
Yeah, I feel like it should be like a whole wide school training. I feel like people hear the term ACEs, but they don't actually know what it means and then how it can affect behavior. And I feel like there's a lot of kids that have certain behaviors that have to do with that type of trauma, and there's teachers that are understanding that correlates.
Yeah, they would still think that we just need to come down harder on them, be more restrictive, but that's really not what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to, you should have a whole plan, which we were talking about, do we know any kid, or have you experienced any kids that have had trauma? Because I'm not always privy to that information.
Yeah. I've had a couple. A lot of it has to do with. Sorry,
we can cut it out.
Oh my gosh. I've had a couple students that do have that, and even family members that I know. I have a specific family member who is younger. He actually just turned 18, but a lot of my family members didn't understand why he acted the way he acted. And I remember me being the younger, granddaughter and niece and cousin, and being this is why he's doing this. And it's because of those traumas. And it's hard because when you don't see it every day, you just want to judge those kids and say, why are you doing this? Versus, hey, let's think of the background and the history of this child and then figure it out from there. And that's something that I've actually just learned in my TCI training, because a lot of it is trauma-informed. That's the whole basis of that whole class. And it's if you don't know the history of it, then it's harder for you to understand that student. And one of their analogies is you have an iceberg. And so when you're in the iceberg, all you see is the tip of the iceberg. You don't see the entire thing underneath it.
Yeah. That was actually there was a brief thing about the iceberg in our modules too. So... But yeah, I do think that the old school way of thinking is definitely at our school, but not with everyone. I think there's changes happening.
Yeah.
We have our behavior liaisons that come in and they do training for us, and people that are just coming out of school are learning more and more and sharing it. One thing that we talked about was specifically how a lot of behaviors of kids who are experiencing trauma or who we suspect are very similar to kids with autism or emotional disturbance. And so maybe their behavior looks the same, but it doesn't necessarily mean so that they are experiencing trauma. But one thing I did learn was because I've experienced a student who's recently their behaviors have gotten to be a little bit different, and that was my first thing I thought about was, I wonder if there's trauma happening. But that's not necessarily the case, which is why relationships with the family
Yeah.
and communicate, just having a relationship where you have trust with the kid, with the team, with the family is important. But I don't even know how, like, if you suspected that, that would be a hard conversation to have. I don't even know if you can ask that.
I know with IEPs, there is like this huge family history questionnaire and things you have to fill out.
Who takes that?
I'm pretty sure the psychologist does.
Okay.
You'd have to double check with me, but I think that's who does it. And they figure out the whole family history of it and then kind of base it off of that.
Yeah, so the family actually has confidentiality with all of that. But I feel like that would be a hard thing to approach. Anyways, we'll move on because we are already probably got a lot of minutes on there. We've been also just talking about self-care practices, and that's something even yesterday I went for a jog and I did yoga, and I shared with Brittany that I have not been exercising in the last month, and I think that is causing more stress. I think our team too, that was one thing I said, was that we need to recognize signs of, it's called compassion fatigue in the text, in each other, and say, hey, like, because I was telling her about the tap in, tap out at the school in Nashville. And like, maybe we should implement that just on our team. Like, we could get with the other class and say, hey, like, if we just even need to do a switch or something so that you can.
Yeah, that's something we talked about in my training too that I had a couple weeks ago, is you should sit with your team and really truly say like, hey, if you see me act like this, or if you see this like face on me, or like you see me being tense, these are my like characteristics, and that means I'm going to need a break, but I may not necessarily say I need a break, which one of our TAs does do that with me, and she kicks me out sometimes. So, but
so I should probably need to know that about you too.
Yeah. And then same with everybody. I feel like that's something that we all need.
That might be something that we should implement. Yeah. So, all right. I think that's all we have time for today.
Yeah, we got nope.